Ladies and gentlemen, the boys are back. Welcome back to season 3 of To Our Own. Ange Postecoglou has been sacked. What a way to start off season 3. Of course, we have the return of the most depressing Tottenham fan of all time. Harry's back. Harry, I know we said we were going to have a break, but listen, Tottenham are Tottenham. So, but looking forward to the new season. I know you are as well. We're recording this on Monday, as always. So anything we say on this podcast is up to date as of Monday at 8:45. We're going to start doing that now because Spurs just do random shit in between. Yesterday we were sat in a call going over some editing stuff and going over some graphical stuff and some guest lists and stuff like that. If you want to come on the podcast, drop us a DM, drop me a DM, drop Harry a DM, follow the podcast, TikTok and Twitter account, and we'll get you guys on. So we are going to talk about Ange. We're going to talk about the new kit and we're going to talk about the managerial situation. We all know what's going to happen. You guys, by the time you've seen this, we will have a here we go. Boys, there we land, whatever the fuck. But we'll talk about it then. So, Ange being sacked. I think we all kind of knew it was coming. I think the fact that there wasn't absolute clarity and there wasn't kind of like a season in review post after the final, a couple of days after the final, it was always kind of obvious in my mind that he wasn't going to stay. Normally when the season's finished, Tottenham post a letter to the fans from Levy or from board members or whatever, just saying, listen, this is how we faced, the impact the signings had, etc., etc. And we didn't get that. And once we got into sort of that 7 to 10 day mark of not having that, I think we all kind of knew that it was going to go. What I will say is, and we'll talk about him being sacked and what that means for Tottenham next season and what it means for certain individuals, but what I will say is, for a manager who came in with a large amount of people doubting him, especially fans and board members and a lot coming out about him not being Levy's choice, he was Scott Munn's choice. I think the way Daniel Levy handled his sacking was absolutely disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful, because I think everyone knows that we weren't the best in the league. Everyone knows we weren't the most solid. But what he did bring was he brought energy, he brought belief in the team when we didn't. I mean, I remember November time, Harry mocking Ange about, he shot himself in the foot with the "I always win things in my second season" quote. I'm not going to find that clip because I'll save Harry the embarrassment. But Ange turned out to be right. And you can sit there, people can sit there and talk about whatever, but players like Brennan Johnson, players like Udogie and Porro, so many players did grow and did improve and did develop under him. We can't deny that just because maybe you didn't want him to stay at the end of the season. You do still have to appreciate what he did. And I think the way the club handled it was absolutely disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. They should have sat there.
How?
Because I'll tell you why. Let me tell you why. Because they should have sat there and gone, this is plan A if we finish 17th and win the Europa League. This is plan B if we finish 17th and don't win the Europa League. Now, it was clear that if we didn't win the Europa League final, I guarantee you we would have had, within 48 hours, a statement from the club. We said that, right? We both said that. And we didn't, there was I fully believe there was a post, there was a document, there was whatever, ready to go on the website, ready to go on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, saying that he was fired within 48 hours if we lost that final. Now, if you're Tottenham, the board have been talking to a specific manager. We'll talk about him in a minute. The board have been talking to a specific manager for the last 5 months, if you believe everything's been written, which, if you look at performances, is about right? Just after Christmas is about right. Because obviously, if you're going to make a managerial change, common sense says to make it just before January so that the new manager's got a January transfer window, or leave it to the end of the season, unless you are a relegated fighting club and you're desperate. But we always knew that we weren't going to go down anyway. And also, if you look at the conversations about what was being done in terms of transfers and what was being done in terms of prioritising certain competitions, all those conversations happened in January. So again, you can't tell me that the review of Ange didn't start in and around that time. Late December, early January. And, if you do come up with a contingency plan for it, you sit there with the board and you go, right, unanimously, if we win the Europa League, finish 17th, worst season in our history in the league, not won anything domestically, he gets fired, right? We all know that decision would have been made at some point, February, March time. If he doesn't win the Europa League and we finish this bad in the league, he's getting fired. We all knew that, right? You can't tell me that they didn't have any other conversations in that same time of, okay, what are we going to do if we do stay as shit in the league but win the Europa League? Because he told the board, it was public, it was obvious that he told the board, he made a statement, he said that he told the board, the club admitted that in January, he said to them he was prioritising the Europa League. So you can't tell me that in the conversations between January and March, let's call it January, February, March, beginning of April, that at no point did they come up with a plan for A, if he finishes terribly and gets sacked, and B, if he finishes terribly but finishes terribly and wins a trophy versus finishes terribly and doesn't. You can't tell me they never considered the possibility. So if they've considered the possibility, they know that no matter what happens, he's going to no matter what happens, he's going to get sacked. Win the Europa League, finish 17th, you're going to get sacked. Don't win the Europa League, finish 17th, you're going to get sacked, right? If you've had those conversations between January and between the end of April, then you should know, right, if we win the Europa League, what's the time for how quickly we're going to sack him? If we don't win the Europa League, how quickly we're going to sack him? Okay, if we don't win the Europa League, 48 hours, we're going to put out a statement, no problem. We win the Europa League, we'll give it 3-4 days, then put out a statement. We won the Europa League on a Wednesday. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that statement about his future couldn't have been posted on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. The fact that they let it drag out for 2 weeks and fired him 2 years to the day that he was hired, the fact that he was allowed to go on holiday and have his future speculated on, dragged out while he's trying to spend time with his family and kids, for a man who won a trophy, I personally think that's a bit disrespectful. The club would have sat there and analysed both options, and they came to the same conclusion for both options. You can't tell me that the board only met and had a conversation about the possibility of us winning the Europa League and him doing shit or whether he stays or goes. You can't tell me that conversation didn't take place until after we won it. I refuse to believe that. They're not idiots. Well, take that back, they are idiots, but they're smart enough to have those conversations before the finals played.
Because what I assume, which is probably true, regardless of if he won it or lost the final, he was going to get sacked. So they'd already made the decision months prior to the final. And I think Levy, and bear in mind, I hate Levy, right? But he'd already made the decision. Bear in mind, he was going to a lot more games, as you saw him on TV, right?
Yeah.
So I think he already made his decision. He was going to sack him. And then bear in mind, we know how the club operates, or you even said it yourself. They go and pull out feelers for new managers, i.e. we were linked with tons of managers during that time period, even when Ange was the manager. Levy also has a history of picking up managers before the manager gets sacked. Jose Mourinho is the latest one I can think of in the last few years. He did it with Ramos. He got Ramos basically pretty much behind Mourinho's back during that time period when Mourinho was sacked and then Ramos took over. So he was already decided months and months before that regardless of if we won the final or not, bear in mind we'd lost 22 Premier League games and we'd probably lost by the time we decided maybe half the league games. Maybe it was like 16, 17, something like that.
Yeah.
He thought, I'm going to get rid of this guy because bear in mind the kind of manager we're bringing in next, we need to realise where we are because of where Ange has put us there. I know we won the trophy, but it's kind of papered over the cracks that he's caused. And whilst it's romantic to think that this guy deserves another shot, if you look at it...
Hold on. Before you get on to that, because we'll talk about that in a second. But I'm talking about what you've said. What you've said, right? What you've said is true, that Levy does negotiate for new managers behind managers' backs, and he often does things that are extremely disrespectful to managers in terms of the way he
Let me finish what I was going to say, though.
Yeah,
there was no reality where this guy was going to stay because he already put himself in that reality that he was never going to stay.
Right, I don't disagree with that. My point.
The bad blood caused between the fans before the City game, and that's when I lost him as a person. I was like, I'm like, fuck this guy. And then bear in mind his tactical inept to see, which was clear to see. Maybe the players liked him as a person, right? I don't doubt that because. Like Porro was going about him, as a person, because I think someone said this one was like a father figure. But if we deep it football wise, the guy should not be here, and he should never have been here the whole season. Really, should have sacked him in December. if I'm being honest, right? The
Right.
fact
I
that,
don't.
but I think Levy, bear in mind the ball changes we've just seen already, he wanted to, and this is, I'm basing it on someone I watched on YouTube as well, and he's probably hit the nail on the head. I think he wanted the season to finish. Bear in mind they sacked the women's manager as well. I think they had a similar record in their league. I think they finished
Yeah,
11th.
they
And
were shocking. Yeah, they were shocking. Yeah.
they sacked, was it Scott Munn? A load of people on the board left.
Yeah,
He wasn't.
there's been so many changes already. It's
So
crazy.
one thing is he was just like one of the sweeps, basically. And like I said, whatever happens, even if he won the final, lost the final, he was going to go because he kind of shot himself in the foot so many times.
Right.
And
I
it's a
don't
very
disagree
romantic
with
notion
that.
to blame. So the fact that Luke Shaw's hand and went in, we should change our minds on whether this manager should be here or not. He should not
Right,
be here.
no. Right, this is not. That's not the. You completely gone off the point that I was making. My point isn't about whether he should or shouldn't have been sacked. We'll go on to that in a second. My point is the fact that if the minute Levy makes that decision, if he's happy to, I mean, we've seen him sack a manager before a final. We've seen him sack a manager at half time. You can't tell me that he needed to drag it out 2 weeks. And the first time they had that conversation about we're going to sack him regardless of the final, you can't tell me the first time that conversation happened was after the final and it took him 2 weeks to make a decision. That decision was already made.
We had a parade. Then he went straight on holiday. Then he came back. Then because you know what it is, they start on the transfer window starts on like the 1st of June, right? I think something like that.
But
so
the parade happened on a Friday. You can't tell me that on the Monday morning they couldn't have put a statement out going, we've analysed that, exactly what they did, we've analysed everything. At that point then, that's 48 hours after the parade. They
then
didn't need to leave it 2 weeks.
Already on holiday. He was already
but
on
it doesn't
holiday.
matter. It doesn't matter though. They could have told him
as
he leaves.
Whilst you're on holiday.
No, but what I'm saying, I mean, Levy sacked a manager at half time. Fucking Gus Poyet found out he was sacked while he was live on TV.
The other reason why I think he kept him till the final was because of the Jose thing. I think he thought if I sack him now, a bunch of people will hate me. Bear in mind, people hate him. There's more Levy out people now anyway because he sacked him just because he's won a trophy, right? What I'm saying is he kind of delayed the inevitable backlash he was going to get because Thomas Frank or whoever comes in, obviously he's the most likely person, is going to have a big job on his hands with a lot of fans. I think getting them back on side. Not that me and you aren't on his side.
Yeah, we'll man's jumping about 400 guns at this point.
Yeah, but like the next manager that comes in because of the way things, not the fact that he was sacked, it was just the way he says stuff, the way he, was crap. Because like he can't sack him at the parade, can he? Really? I mean, let's be honest. So when are you going to sack him then? Because he goes on holiday, he comes back, and then.
But this is my point, right? This is my point, right? Levy was there at the parade. He was hiding, but a couple of people saw him. I think Levy could have told him after the parade, listen, mate, respectfully, quick chat before you go. Sorry. Exactly what I said. Exactly what I said in the video I recorded driving home from work after the final, where I said that I could see the argument either way. If he did get sacked, it was of his own doing, and if it wasn't, he was lucky to get another opportunity, and the Europa League had given him just enough fuel in the tank to get into next season. Levy could have gone, listen, just quickly before you go, I appreciate everything you've done for the club, but unfortunately, we just can't look past the league form, and we don't think that there's going to be enough of a change next year to prevent a similar outcome. So unfortunately, we're going to relieve you of your duties. We're going to make a statement on Monday. Please don't say anything until then. We're going to make a statement on Monday. Thank you very much. You'll have your severance package in your bank account before you get off the plane. Job done. And then put a statement out Monday morning. What I'm saying is, regardless of whether you think he should or shouldn't have stayed at Tottenham, regardless of whether you think he should have been sacked 2 years ago, the fact of the matter is, he is the third manager ever to win us a European trophy. And just for that alone, I think he earned enough respect. I'm not saying he earned enough fuel in the tank or earned enough warranted to manage the next season. We both agreed come the end, and then people that are following on TikTok, they know my opinion. I'll elaborate on it in a second. But I think he earned enough respect to make that statement Monday morning and not leave it 2 weeks.
So you think he should have done it before he went on holiday then?
Yeah, basically. I think so. I think they should have said, do me a favour, delay your holiday 48 hours. We're going to put the statement out Monday, and then you can go on holiday a free man. You can negotiate with other clubs, job done. I think that would have been a lot better. We all sat there, me and you, we were refreshing Twitter every night, links to him being sad, It went on for far too, that 2 weeks felt longer than the 90 minutes, obviously because it's 2 weeks, but in terms of the way it feels, that 2 weeks felt like 3 months waiting for that decision, when in reality, if they've made that decision, if they've made that decision 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 5 months ago, whatever it might be, then in my mind, you owe him at least that to let him go on holiday with an outcome of the situation, in my opinion, right? And I don't think that's unfair to say. That being said, do I disagree that I said this in the TikTok that I made, that I think the odds of the season being a different outcome in the league versus the odds of it being similar, there was far more likely for it to be similar than it was for it to be different without us going and investing an absolute shit ton. And do I believe that there would be enough long-term stability created from the kind of money we would needed to have invested to have been largely competitive with him? Do I believe that there'd have been enough stability afterwards to warrant the volume of money needed to spend under him? Probably not. And I think that's what tipped it for me to say, actually, if the only way he's going to be stable is to spend an absolute shit ton, and I don't think he had warranted spending that volume of money, that's what made the decision for me that he shouldn't continue.
Or 450 million, whatever it was.
Yeah, if you go and give him like 300 million over the summer in January, is his style of play concrete enough? Like, is 300 million going to get us to the point where we've got the stability that Barcelona had playing that way, that PSG had playing that way? No. And that's where I look at it and go, the amount of money you need to spend is ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. If he was, when we said this before, and I think this is a job that I think he'd be good at, I don't know whether they've confirmed a new manager, but somewhere like Ajax, he could spend 40, 50 million and have that team playing proportionate to their league, the way Barcelona and PSG play, because the style of football itself, when you've got the best players in a league, we said it's fine. Like Celtic, he had players that were 15% better than the next best team. You can play that way flawlessly. Ajax, same thing. Maybe not a PSG, they won the league this year. If he went to a Sporting Lisbon, I think he'd have a similar kind of effectiveness. But can you do that with players that are 6th, 7th, 8th best in the league, with one or two worldy players, but a style that makes those players unfit consistently? No. And like I say, the volume of money needed to spend to get to that point. And that was what made the decision for me. You know what? The other reason that made the decision for me was Erik ten Hag. And the reason why I'm saying this, people can be like, oh, what the fuck? Is he next United manager? Why would he make a decision for you? Because United fans don't remember Erik ten Hag for winning the trophies, most of them. They remember him for that awful second part of the season. At least now we can focus on the fact that he won us a trophy, and we can see him like that. Yeah. Right, and I think he deserved, the character he is and the kind of person he is, I think he deserves to leave on a high. I don't think to take the Tottenham job, to have the confidence in the squad and the belief in the squad, where you and I both said, oh, we're not going to win trophy this season. To be fair, I said that we were going to win most of our games that run from February to April, and actually you were more right than I was. But you look at your comment about, I hate to bring it up again, but you look at your comment about, oh, he shot himself in the foot by saying we always win things in second season. Now we look at it and we look at his response after we won something. He didn't say that to try and overconfidence or to have a level of arrogance. He said it because he really meant it. He really, really meant it. And you've got to look at him with that and go, you know what? While it's time for the chapter to close, you've got to have an admiration that he came into Tottenham Hotspur and went, balls to the fucking wall, fuck you, I'm ending that trophy drought. I don't give a shit you laugh at me. I don't give a shit what you say. I don't give a shit how you respond. I don't give a shit about you laughing or whatever. I'm going to be the one to do it. And I really, really believe it. And there's a very thin line between delusion and success. And for Ange, luckily for him, he fell on the side of success with a comment like that. You could easily fall on the side of delusion with a comment like that. And like Mikel Arteta say, oh, we were the best team in the Champions League this year. That falls on the side of delusion. And saying, well, I always win things and I've seen enough in this group to know that it's not going to change. We still stand by the point that even despite the goal we scored, if we'd have played that game for another hour and a half, we would have scored before United did. That's the reality of the situation. The players wanted it more. They were so absolutely determined. We said it on the first episode we recorded after the final. Those players were not leaving that pitch without a medal around their necks. And when you look back at the comment he made, Now you can see why he made that comment. Obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but now you can see why he made that comment. So I'm glad that he went out on a high. I'm glad that he's ended on a positive note, and I'm glad that he's ended with his reputation intact. And I do hope he is successful elsewhere because he is a lovely guy. He clearly had a good relationship with the players, and I just have a lot of respect for the fact that he was the guy with a big enough set of balls to go, me? I'm winning a trophy at Tottenham this year. This squad is winning a trophy at Tottenham this year. And I'm going to say I told you so at the end of the season. And do you know what? I don't know if you saw what he did for the fan that he bumped into in Greece. The fan wrote him a letter because he made a joke about, if Tottenham fans want to thank me, they can get me a bottle of wine. And the fan wrote him a letter and gave him a bottle of wine. And he actually contacted the fan back, sent a letter back that he wrote himself, gave him a signed shirt and said, listen, thank you for the support, whatever. Obviously, we mentioned the other day when we were talking about the text that he sent to Basuma. Again, he clearly cared about the club. He clearly loved the club. And there were rocky times and there were difficult times and there were frictional times, but looking back at it now, I probably wouldn't change it because I think it's going to be one of those things that we sit there in 30 years' time laughing and joking about going, do you remember how fucking tragic that season with Ange was? And you said, you're stupid fucking idiot for making those comments about winning a trophy. And we fucking did.
Well, I remember this season was because we finished flipping 17th. We lost 22 games.
No, you won't. In 30 years' time, when you're in your 60s, you will sit there being able to celebrate a major European trophy with your dad, the reason you're a Tottenham fan. I will be able to sit there and remember celebrating a trophy with my stepdad, who's the reason I'm a Tottenham fan. No one will give a shit that we finished 17th. We might laugh and joke about certain results, but in reality, the only game we're going to remember
the reason why
is
I say
one.
that because say if we have another bad season, not on that level, what they'll say is, and you know it's going to happen. Don't compare it to 20 Premier League games. So it's not like we're going to forget about it.
We know. All right. If we finish 17th every year for the next 10 years, then we might not forget about it. But as long as we don't finish anywhere near that for the next 20 years, then in 30 years' time, all people will talk about is a trophy. And I think for me, the confidence and belief he had, and just the way he just didn't give a shit what people said. For me, I got a lot of admiration for that. I think more people should have.
He did care what people said because I got very prickly with the.
No,
media.
but I mean, but I don't. I mean, I like the fact he had a bit of bite about him. He didn't just sit there and take the abuse.
When the fans had an argument with him and stuff, and he bit back, he should never have bit back. I'm sorry. This is why I lost him completely.
See, for me, now the chapter's over. I can sit back at that and look at that and go, I'm glad he had some fight and some spirit because I believe that fight and fire he had inside him is the reason why we got over the line in the first place. He had big enough, right? No matter what you say, hold on, my last point on this, because then we'll move on to, because we both agreed that he should be sacked and that it wasn't good enough ultimately. My last point on it is the fact that regardless of what you can say, right, you've been Levy out for as long as I've known you, even before that. And the one thing you can say is, he's a manager who had a big enough pair of balls on him in January, halfway through the season, at the point he could have been sacked, went to the chairman and went, I'm prioritising Europa League, whether you like it or not, and then go and win it. Now, for all you can say about him and all the things you don't like about him and all the Ange out conversations and that screaming debate with a black and white thumbnail last year and whatever, through all those conversations we've had, you've got to admire the fact that he believed enough to go to Daniel Levy and go, I don't care about the league. The league doesn't build winning mentality. The league doesn't make this team winners. Winning a trophy makes them winners. That's what I'm going to do. Don't like it, fire me. All right, he did, but at least he let him manage the final. We'll talk about the.
Did he say that, or was Levy just not right there anyway?
Well, no. All the media reports say that he said in January after the transfer window, "Listen, I can't go on all fronts, so this is what I'm prioritising. Don't care about league. I'm going to win the Europa League." And some of the things that players have said have sort of backed that as well. Before we talk about the kit, we'll talk about the kit at the end because it's kind of the least relevant thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, as we are recording this, we're currently at 9 minutes past 9, and I'm going to check just to be sure. That there isn't a here we go. Yeah. As it stands right now, it looks highly likely that Thomas Frank is going to be next Tottenham manager. Not Marco Silva, thank fuck for that. Not a woman abuser and rapist sympathiser in De Zerbi. Thank God for that, because I would not have been going to a game next season if he was in charge, because it's disgraceful that he was even offered asked to apply for the job in the first place. Thomas Frank, we were both when we had the conversation a couple of weeks back, we both said that he was our ideal choice. We both think he can bring stability. He's a very likable character, very adaptable character, very driven, very motivating. Every Brentford fan I've seen has said that the reason why they are where they are today is because of him. And seeing the love they have for him, we've already said he's a likable character. It's been one of the reasons why we've had admiration for him over the years. But the who he is as a person and the way Klopp said this when he left Liverpool, and I believe it for anything. People don't remember who you are when they first meet you. They remember who you are the last time they meet you. And what Brentford fans are saying and the kind of person Thomas Frank is, Tottenham fans need to give him time. I'm not talking like Poch level time. Just like Brentford, I think he picked up 3-4 points in his first 8 to 10 games with Brentford.
I know, yeah.
And then a year later, they finished in the playoffs and lost against a Fulham side that was a lot more Premier League equipped. And then a year later, they won the playoffs. And convincingly as well, by the way. Giving Brentford fans the greatest night of their life. And then in the Premier League, they beat Arsenal 2-0. I believe it was the first or second game of the season after coming up. So he will be fondly remembered. He will be fondly remembered, and I think there's a lot to like about Thomas Frank. There's a lot to like, and this is the first time that either of us are on the exact same page about a managerial decision. And I'm really excited. And do you know what? I actually watched a video the other day where he said that he gets his teams to attack differently depending on what they're playing, who they're playing. So if they're playing Burnley that would defend deep, then he'd get them to put crosses in towards the edge of the box, like cut the crosses back, rather than into the 6-yard box. Same as if he's playing an Everton that defend deep and the Moyes. If he's playing like a Spurs that have a high line, the balls would be bent round the back of the defence and onto the edge of the 6-yard box, onto the penalty spot. And I love the fact that he thinks so differently about the game. And the style's not so much different, but little tweaks here or there make the biggest of difference. And also, I'm really, really excited.
He changes formations. He does different things. This is why I like him. But also, I think with Frank, the most important thing is we need to realise where we are in terms of like, I don't think Levy's leaving anytime soon. I don't think the club's going to suddenly change its transfer policy. So we need a manager that kind of fits the policy. And Frank has worked on a very limited budget with Brentford and overachieved given the resources he's been given. Bear in mind, he's lost
massively,
Tony,
by the way, absolutely massively.
Tony, lost Watkins. He's had to
Ben Rama over the years is a massive player after when they're in the championship.
Reshuffle the team, reshuffle the formation based on him losing players. So I think he's a perfect guy, especially with the young players we've got, like Bergvall. I think he could be a manager that might develop someone like him. I don't know about Gray yet, but Bergvall, I think he could mould him. Because they're both from, no, he's from Norway, right? But they're both from the same area of Europe, aren't they, or something?
Yeah,
he's Norwegian anyway. But what I'm saying is, like, he could develop young players, like we mentioned, obviously with Tony and whatever. But so he's a kind of really good fit, and I think we need someone to come in and get us back into like stability in terms of finishing the top 6, 7, 8 for the next few years. And then if we're going to make the actual next step to be like title challenge, whatever, if it ever happens again, because with Poch it kind of was out of nowhere, but like a planned way, then we need to get higher up the table consistently first. And then, because we've just been a mess the past few years, like up and down. We just need something for the next 3 years to get us.
See, the thing, it interests me you say that, because one of the biggest things that I saw Brentford fans say, and this is what excites me the most, is he grew with Brentford. As Brentford grew, as they finished better, he grew, his tactics grew, he improved. He's not had a chance at elite level yet, and I don't think there's a single Premier League fan that's not being stupid that would disagree with the statement saying that he deserves an opportunity to prove himself at a bigger club with better quality players, better youth academy systems, better technology options, whatever. I truly believe, and I don't want to be eating my words in a year's time, I'm not making another bet. We'll talk about the bet as well, remind me at the end. I truly believe he's a manager that can grow with this squad. And I don't see any reason why, if we go from fourth, fifth to second, third, challenging in Europe, challenging domestically, I don't see any reason why he can't continue on that trajectory, because he's grown and developed as a manager. And I think there's so much we can get from him that I think he will grow with this squad. I'm not saying that he'll be a Champions League contender straight away, but I don't think this is going to be a situation where in 3 years' time we're going, right, let's get rid of him, let's go and get an elite manager. I think he can become a top level manager by adapting and growing with this squad. And this is why I think one of his coaching staff actually said a couple of years back that they believe Tottenham would be the perfect place for them if they were ever to go, which I found that quite interesting, because they've seen managers in the past, in that era where we had Redknapp, we had Pochettino, they've seen managers come in and adapt and grow with the squad. I think the biggest thing about Spurs, when sort of that 2017, 2018 team versus Pochettino, was the team kind of grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. And yeah, okay, we needed a little bit of investment to get us over the line, but I also think Pochettino as a manager kind of sort of stopped growing. He kind of hit his peak before the team did. So it's not like he grew into a tactical magician that could get us over that line domestically in cup finals. You know, you look at the game against Chelsea in the FA Cup semi-final that we lost. You look at the Man United, we lost so many FA Cup semi-finals, quarter-finals under Pochettino. He never really grew and adapted with that squad. I think Thomas Frank will. And I wouldn't be surprised in 3 years' time if we're sitting there going, we see him being a manager for the next 10 years.
I think...
Because the kind of character he is...
It depends, because bear in mind, he's been at lower level clubs for a long time. This is the Redknapp thing again, I guess. And even in some ways, Martignol and Poch, they're kind of all similar to him in some respects. But there was always a question mark, even when he got Redknapp, because... bear in mind, Redknapp came from Portsmouth team who did win the FA Cup, but they weren't ever more than a mid-table team really. Like, he always kept them up. They finished somewhat decent place, but always the question mark in my head was, can he make the step up from a team of that level to a team of Tottenham's level who expect to be in the top six consistently, but plus challenging. I don't know if that's even if we do that, but you know what I'm trying to say. But obviously that question mark is going to be there, and it just remains to be seen, really.
Yeah, I think it does. But I think
before we can run with, but I think personally,
yeah, I think we will. I think it'll be one of those things where we'll run with him. I think we'll continue to grow and grow and grow. And I think there's so many things I take from the Ange Postecoglou era and foundations that he set with specific players that I think means Thomas Frank's job is 1,000 times easier than it was this time 2 years ago. If he'd have taken over post-Conte, then I think Thomas Frank would have had 2 years to stabilise us. I think with the squad of players we've got, I'm really excited for Dominic Solanke. I'm really excited for Lucas Bergvall. I'm really excited for Van der Ven. The reason why I say Van der Ven is because I don't think we'll play as high of a line at times, and we've proven that he's an elite level defender. So seeing him at elite level defender where his hamstrings aren't outstretched and zoomed in at 400 miles, I think, we'll see a massive benefit defensively. I think Porro and Udogie will benefit massively because they will get higher and they'll be wider. There'll be more crossing opportunities for them. I think Bergvall, because he'll be given a lot more freedom and a lot more stability. I think Archie Gray, I still, and this remains to be seen, but I still think he has a plan for Archie Gray. He wanted him at Brentford. He was Brentford's first choice transfer target last year. What that plan is, I don't know, but I'm sure he does. I think we'll see a lot more freedom for players like Odobert. I think we'll see a lot more freedom for Kulusevski. I think Maddison will be a lot further forward. And I think Maddison will become 10 times a player by this time next year than he is now. There's so many. Solanke, I think he'll be in and around the box a lot more rather than just pressing for the sake of pressing. Well, not pressing for the sake of pressing, but rather than being the guy who does all the running and everybody else scores the goals, we'll see Solanke in and around that box where he was so effective for Bournemouth. And I think that'll be a massive benefit. I think Sarr will be used a lot more. His energy, Frank loves runners in midfield, and I think Sarr, he has so much energy, has so much pace, and he's built up on his strength over the years and his end product the last couple of years. So I think there's so much benefit from Thomas Frank, not including the players we're linked to, which we'll discuss next week when we really deep dive into the squad and Frank, etc. But on the face of it, touch wood, provided nothing goes wrong, I'm really, really excited about this appointment. I think the sky, I say the sky's the limit. The sky is the limit of Daniel Levy's bald head. But I think generally there's so much quality in the squad for Frank and the way he plays. I'm really excited to see what comes of it. People sitting there and talking about, oh, yeah, but Thomas Frank got beat by Ange, blah, 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 blah. Well, if you gave Thomas Frank Spurs' squad and Ange's Brentford squad and told them to play the way they both play, yeah, exactly. So I don't want to hear any of those arguments. For me, yeah, I don't think there's anything else really saying it till we deep dive in it next week and it's fully confirmed. But
once he's appointed, it'd be easier to talk about transfer targets.
Yeah, transfer target. I don't want to talk about all that. This is just the first episode of season 3. So, yeah, I'm really happy providing
season 2. Sorry.
Yeah, well, yeah, it will be for the podcast. Let's hope so. Honestly, right. If this podcast absolutely slaps this year and we grow it as much as we're going to try and grow it, I'm definitely using Ange's quote and following that up with you and your quote next year. I'll save the episode and clip it so I don't lose it. But yeah, I'm feeling really optimistic for sure. And
problem is, we talk about this. I hate to use rebuild word. That's probably not the right way to say it. But we need this massive development phase, I think. And the problem is that Ange is not the manager to do that development phase because we've gone so far down. No. We've gone so far down, right? That I think it's going to be hard for the next manager that comes in to kind of bring us back to a respectable place. I believe in momentum, which is why I didn't want Ange to stay. Because if we carried on that way, I think it would have started really, really, really badly. But I think with someone like Frank, if we can start the season with even 5 wins, 2 draws, 3 losses, or something even that's all right.
Yeah, he's still stability.
Yeah, just some stability to get us consistently into the same place for the next 3 years, whether it's 6 or whatever 3 years in a row, and then we can see what we can do extra. Because, like I said, due to the transfer policy, he's the best option as well. He's worked on a limited budget for so long. So he'll get even more money than he's normally used to. But I think we're more likely to spend it better with someone like Frank, especially given some of the rumours about the transfer policy, to 23 to 27 that you sent me.
Yeah.
So if it's that way, then maybe I'll be like, oh, okay, maybe we might do something.
We'll definitely save that for more detail for next week. But yeah, completely. I think the thing that interests me the most is you talk about rebuild, and I don't think rebuild's the right word anymore. I think Ange bought the materials for the house, but Levy didn't believe that he could build the house. Now we're bringing in Thomas Frank to build the house, but the materials that are there, 95% of them are brilliant. We just need the couple of Zlatan says, right? If you buy a new house and there's no furniture, you go to IKEA. The furniture's lost. I should know. I spent £125 a couple of weeks ago on fucking stainless pots and pans, so I didn't have to replace them again in a year's time because the shit at the bottom had scraped off. So I bought stainless steel ones, and now I feel like a proper chef when I'm cooking. You know in Ratatouille where they play the French music? That's how I feel in the kitchen when I'm... I don't even know what the words are, but yeah, anyway.
What I'm saying is, like Martin Yole, I remember back in the day when we had him, a lot of people saw him as a development manager, and he was a development manager, but with a few more players, he could have made the next step. Poch was the same, I guess, and Renat to some extent was kind of similar, but instead with Renat, he was kind of one of my favourites, so maybe I'm a bit biased about this, but I thought he could do a bit more. So with Frank, I'm basing him on the same sort of thinking, but again, it remains to be seen. This is just a theory. I hope he doesn't come into the club and gets overruled like Nuno, or he just has to come in and just do what he normally does, I think. And that's it.
I think, I think there's a lot more belief. I think the problem with the whole Nuno situation, we spoke about it last year, but I think the whole point about the Nuno situation was he came in and was already told to play a different way. From the looks of reading, it looks like he's being told, play the way you want to play, get results, bring stability, don't be as wide open as Bonnie Blues. I'm not going to finish that sentence, but anyway, so, just be stable, be secure. He's a very likeable character anyway. I think Levy will have told him, listen, we do need to do well in the league, but I'm going to give you... I think we're not... We said it last year about depth. I don't think we're a million miles away in terms of having 2 good enough players per position. I think we'll be in that position by the end of the summer. And at that point then, we can kind of use that like depth and the fact that we're not going to be running as much and we're not going to be hopefully as many injuries, that we can actually give a cup run. And I think the minute you win an FA Cup or a League Cup with Thomas Frank, I think that opens so many doors because it gets rid of that whole, he's just come in to prioritise the league. Thomas Frank last year...
He's like Eddie Howe, basically.
Yeah, well, he did an interview with Sky last year. I actually watched it earlier, which is what reminded me. And he basically said that he wants to be ambitious and he wants to win trophies and he's going to do his best to get Brentford there, but his priority is making sure they're still a Premier League club. Touch wood, with Tottenham, that's not the first priority. He doesn't need to keep us in the league. That's not a priority. He just has to get us in and around the European places. Now, I think for Tottenham, we're good enough with this squad, playing in an efficient way, to comfortably finish 6th. And then whether the difference between 5th and 4th and 6th, all dependent on the form of the other teams,
bear in mind,
injuries,
you've got
blah, 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 blah.
Newcastle in there now. Because you've got Villa, Newcastle,
yeah.
Arsenal, City. Is that 16?
Yeah. No, but what I'm saying is, like, he could, I reckon if he finishes anywhere from 6th to 4th, then Levy will be happy with that for the first year.
Yeah.
And as long as we don't get embarrassing in the Champions League. I think the Champions League he has a real opportunity to do well in. No, I'm not saying we're going to win it. I'm not Arsenal.
I don't think
fans deluded. I don't think we're going to win it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we made it to a quarter final because this squad is cup ready. This squad has fought through cup competitions. They know the grit of going away to an away atmosphere that's horrible, that's overpowering. Boglin atmosphere was incredible. The Frankfurt atmosphere. Yeah, Galatasaray, the Frankfurt atmosphere was a joke. Like, and they hadn't lost there in God knows how long. Boglin hadn't lost at home in God knows how long. Like, for me, those players have been through that now. And that's one I will always be grateful to Ange for that, for this group of players, because they know what it's like. And I think that alone will help us do well. Then the tactics on top of it, I would expect us to get to a Champions League quarter final next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if his priority in his head is to win a domestic cup. Because if he wins the FA Cup in his first season, then no one's sitting there missing Ange anymore. Because all of a sudden, we've won a trophy, we've stabilised the ship. All right, we finished 6th and won the FA Cup. I'd take that next year. Obviously, at the end of the transfer window, we'll do Premier League predictions. We'll get someone on for Premier League predictions. But in terms of that, that's where we'll leave that there. And then next week, we'll deep dive into the squad, the transfer rumours, etc., etc. That's where we'll leave that there. Second to last thing then, the home kit.
I don't really care about the kit, so you're asking the wrong person. I don't buy it, so...
These people right here, come back.
Yeah.
Baby, come back. Under Armour, please come back, because I would take a seatbelt to prevent a car crash over a fucking... That was funny. I'd take a seatbelt to prevent a car crash over the Nike shit any day. It's awful. It's just awful. I'm looking forward to the black kit. I'm looking forward to the yellow kit, but other than that, it's awful. I don't think we need to say anything else.
To me, I probably feel like this way with Nike because I wanted Nike to sponsor Spurs for so long because Nike back in the 90s sponsored all the big clubs.
Yeah, it was so good. Yeah.
And then now they got us and they were like, be careful what you wish for, I guess. Because they got us and they were crap. All their kits are crap. I don't think I bought a Nike kit. I don't think I've actually bought one.
Yeah, it's just a joke. Yeah. I'm just trying to think. Two other things. So, over on my TikTok is a giveaway. Basically, last year, I made a bet with, I think, an Arsenal fan, a random guy on TikTok, and I said that Ange wouldn't be sacked before July the 1st, and he said he would. And the original bet was for £150 donation to charity. He messaged me the other day and was like, listen, money's tight for everyone. If you can't do it, don't do it, don't do it. It's fine, whatever. I'm not going to be an arsehole, whatever. Anyway, he said, if you do want to do it, why don't you take a random Tottenham fan to a game rather than, giving money to a charity that's going to be a drop in the ocean? And I agree. So over on my TikTok, there's a pinned TikTok, not the one where I call Spurs shit, but the other one, there's a pinned TikTok where you can enter and nominate someone to go to a game. And I'll pay for the ticket, pay for the program, meet them in the game. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity for me as an individual to turn a bit of fan banter into something really positive. So please go over there and check that out. And yeah, that'd be really appreciated. Enter, it's free. Nominate someone. You might win, you might not. There's 3 entries at the minute. 4 technically, but one of them I know is a joke. Because my mate, so I go to the gym with my best mate and my other mate. And the other mate nominated my best mate who hates football and has refused to go to a Spurs game for years. He's commented going, oh, my mate Emil is a massive Tottenham fan. He'd absolutely love it, blah, blah, blah. And obviously he wouldn't, and it'd be an absolute piss take. Lastly then, we'll finish this episode by saying, I want 3 words to describe Ange's time at Tottenham.
Okay, you don't want to hear my 3 words.
No, I do. Go on.
Okay, very painfully disappointing.
I mean, they didn't have to make a sentence. They could have just been 3 random words.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I thought it said it like that anyway.
No, go on. We're not in year 6. We don't need to make a sentence and put a full stop.
Painful. Long. Relief.
Okay. I'm going to go with chaotic.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly, I think.
Unpredictable. And memorable. For multiple different reasons, it's memorable, but I think they're going to be the 3 words that I'm going to go with to describe Ange's time at Tottenham.
I don't think unpredictable is the right word, but anyway, that's another discussion, I guess.
Yeah, because you predicted it was going to be shit. You also predicted that Ange wasn't going to win a trophy, so fuck you. Anyway, yeah, I think that's where we're going to go. This year, obviously, we sat yesterday, so Sunday night as we're recording this, and we went over and got a list of Spurs fans we want to get on the podcast. Some rival fans we want to get on the podcast as well. If you would like to come on, drop us a message, Spurs fan, non-Spurs fan, you want to come on and talk about your club, drop us a message, let us know. Other than that, hello to my little brother who's watching this. I know he's really excited for the new season. Him and his mum actually started listening to the podcast on their, I'm going to call it an Amazon audio device so mine doesn't start going off. But they started watching it on their Amazon, the other one, and their Amazon audio device. And that's really, really interesting, which is really nice. And she started following the clips and stuff, so that's really good. But yeah, other than that, say hello, little man. I love you to bits. Come on, you Spurs. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Welcome back. Welcome to season 3. It's going to be an eventful one. Let's hope it's better than season 2. We're winning the Champions League this year. I'm joking.
Imagine that gets clipped.
Mate, I might actually have to clip that at the start of an episode and then have a random other clip from
Someone
it.
will lose their mind over it, I guarantee, because that's what Spurs Twitter's like. Oh, Spurs.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, make sure. Yeah, I know. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify, and we'll catch you at 9:30 every Friday morning for season 3 of Two of Our Own. Only one thing left. Well, he ruined it. I was going to say there's only one thing left to say, but Harry prematurely spoke. Rather, let's hope that's the only thing he does prematurely. Harry prematurely spoke. I've got to be careful what I say when my brother watches this. Harry prematurely spoke, but there's one thing left to say, as he's already said it anyway. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.